FM Global TV, where Filipinos get connected globally.
Welcome to my office building at 120 Broadway. We are at downtown Manhattan, right next to Wall Street. This is a National Historic Landmark. It was called the Equitable Building and the site of that movie, The Wolf of Wall Street. Tonight, we are going to meet some millennials who are going to talk about their lifestyle, their interests, travel, and spending habits. And maybe they have something to say about their investment strategies. Let's go meet them. The millennial generation is also known as Generation Y, Generation Me, or what you call the Echo Boomers. Born between the years 1982 and 2000, the millennials are very tech-savvy, entrepreneurial, they're socially conscious and educated. Now, why are we so keen about millennials? According to the 2015 census, there are 85 million of you millennials. And that's a big number. That changes the math for all marketing, for all businesses, and even for the presidential election. But tonight we're not going to talk about the election or any politics. We are just focusing our discussion about their careers, the millennials' goals, and travel. So another thing about millennials, by the way, we are interested, people like me, I'm a financial planner and an investment advisor. We are so used to dealing with baby boomers. Baby boomers are holding the vast wealth of America. And who are their children? The millennials. So there is a transition of power here, the transfer of wealth from the baby boomers to the millennials. This is something we're really interested about. So tonight we will meet two of our millennials. I have here Christine De Leon. She's 24 years old. She's working as a paralegal and a daughter of a diplomat. And I have here Roberto Rossellini. He's 23 years old. He's a professional model and a photographer, and the son of a famous actress, Isabella Rossellini. Now, in a little while, you will meet two other millennials. We have Portia Sichum, who is our travel anchor, and a filmmaker, a 21-year-old filmmaker, Kirsten. For now, let me ask you, Kirsten, can you give us a little bit of your background about, what have you been doing, your job, your first job, and your education?
Yeah, of course. So I went to school in Manila, at the Manila University, and I finished with a degree in political science. And I moved here to New York in 2013, and I found a job as a paralegal in 2014, actually. There was a moment in time where I didn't work as a paralegal, but I've been a paralegal ever since. And I love it. I have been thinking about law school, and so that's why I decided to become a paralegal.
And what about Roberto? Can you give me a little bit background of what you do, your education?
Background of my education, I went to school at Stony Brook University first for 2 years for marine biology actually, and actually ended up finishing my associates there. So then I transferred over to International Center of Photography here in Manhattan to actually get it more into the photography side of what I wanted to do. And that's how I actually started building into what I do now, which is photography. That's my, I guess, primary career, you can call it. And then my newer career that I came into is modeling, which is newer. I just started in June. It's relatively
Well, how did you
interesting.
get into that modeling?
I got into modeling because I was scouted first, actually, in Manhattan, downtown, when I was walking around one day, and they asked me if I wanted to be a model for one of their shoots, and I told them I would do it. It was for L'Ufficio Italia, and then after that, it kind of got pulled into my mom, and my mom kind of asked me if I would want to do it and if I would get into it.
And the mom he's talking about is Isabella Rossellini, the actress. And also the face of Lancome, right?
Yeah, she is. She is the face of Lancome, and my sister was as well, actually, who came after her. So then now I'm the model who's in the career as well. But it is definitely interesting, and my mom helped me out a little bit as far as encouragement. She definitely told me that it's something that was a lot of fun and something I should probably get into and start trying to do because the money is great and it's a great place to meet people, honestly. So it's kind of the way she told me to pull myself into it. And with photography, it was a good transition as well. So it teaches me how to be both in front and behind the camera.
So the parents really play a major role in molding your careers. And we're going to go back to the money is great thing. And how about you, Christine? You said you want to enter law school. Is this something influenced by your father? The dad is the former ambassador to New York.
No, my father actually had nothing to do with my decision, funny enough, but he has always encouraged it. If anything, my mother actually had something to do with my career decisions when I was younger. I always thought I wanted to be a doctor, and then I went to a mock trial in the UK, and I just fell in love. I fell in love with the courtroom, funny enough. And yeah, ever since then my eyes have been set on law school. I just knew that I didn't want to go into it right away. And that was a piece of advice I got from a professor of mine in Korea. I studied abroad in Korea as well.
Korea?
Yeah.
So, and what studies did you take in UK?
I was there from primary school, and the equivalent of that here would be elementary, and then up until nearly the end of high school. I finished high school in the Philippines. But by the time I left the UK, I'd already known that law was the track that I wanted to pursue, and it was just a decision that was encouraged along the way. I've been looking for reasons not to go into it. Obviously, the market for lawyers is not that great right now, as I know, but for some reason, I just keep getting pulled into it.
All right, so you'll be going back as a student.
Hopefully in the next 2 years. Yeah.
All right. All right. Now, let's talk more about your career. And you know how many people want to be in your shoes right now? Modeling. This is something a lot of New Yorkers want to do. But you mentioned something like the money is good. Well, are we talking about 6 figures here? Or can you give us a sense of what kind of money they make?
Models can make, definitely up to 6 figures. Depends on really what kind of an industry you're in. If you're doing campaigns, if you're doing editorial, if you're doing magazines, it really depends on where you are pushed, or even commercial, because some models actually do TV and commercial primarily. And that's really where I would say the most money is, honestly, because people are watching TV regularly.
So what is the low side of that?
The lower side, I'd say, would be more towards editorial work. If you're doing more regular editorial work, like smaller magazine companies, photos for photographers who just, want things for press, things like that, then it's definitely a lower income. But if you go more towards the TV campaigns or, fashion company campaigns, things like that, that's really where it starts pulling in the money. That's where you start making a lot of money.
Well, can you tell our audience what are the big projects, for example, that you're working on?
Big projects that I'm working on right now, I don't really have any, honestly. It's more photo projects than anything that I have right now for myself.
Commercial.
But it's more photo projects that I'm working on with my mom currently. And I'm also looking to maybe possibly get a job with W Magazine soon. So hopefully as a photographer.
So what are your most recent photo shoots?
My most recent photo shoots that I've done was I was on the cover of At Large magazine.
At Large magazine.
Yeah.
Is that in Italy?
No, it's a magazine here in the States actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was based off here recently. It's relatively new, I would say, probably about 10, 15 years old. And they just asked me to be the cover of their magazine, so that's the most recent thing that I did.
And I think I saw one of your pictures at Gucci, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
did a Gucci
Yeah, so,
model
yeah, so
for
it's-
the jackets or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, so I modeled for Gucci jackets, I did Prada, I did Dries Van Noten, and those are really the big names that I've done so far. Yeah.
Does it mean that you have to be affiliated with the main modeling agency?
Yeah, you definitely have to. I'm signed to Ford Modeling Agency.
Ford, okay.
And they're based here in New York as well, but they're worldwide, so they're everywhere really. But they're the ones who signed me back in June, so that's where I've been working since.
So, what about traveling? Have you traveled a lot? What's your style in traveling? Is it luxury?
I've traveled a lot with my mom growing up. Since I was a kid up until now, I still travel plenty. I love to. I wouldn't say it was really luxury. I'd say it's more business class is really what I fly, or is what I try to fly at least. If not, then I'll fly economy. It's okay. It doesn't really bother me too much. I feel like as long as the flight is comfortable and it's not too long, it should be okay, you know?
Any special place?
Any special places? I would say Africa is definitely my favorite place.
No.
At least so far that I've been to. I still have never been to Asia yet, so it's a place I
Have
to
you
go
traveled
to.
alone
Yeah, I've traveled alone plenty.
to Africa?
To Africa, I flew there by myself,
Okay.
but I didn't, I met people there and I was with family there, but flying there I was alone, so it was definitely an interesting flight.
You see, these millennials are very adventurous. How about you, Christine? Have you tried traveling? Tell us about your traveling experience. And is it also a luxury travel, budget travel?
Well, when I was growing up, obviously, I traveled a lot with my father and my family actually. So he was stationed in London, and that's where I spent most of my formative years, as he called them. And we would travel around Europe extensively. I don't remember a time where I wasn't out of London at least 4 times a year. We were just going everywhere. They took advantage of the fact that we were there. And then after that, I think I just caught the bug, and I can't sit still. So I usually need to be out of wherever I'm living for a good, oh no, I'm sorry, I take that back. I need to leave every so often. I feel like I get suffocated in anywhere I'm staying. If I'm
So what do
there
you
for
do?
too
You
long.
just travel?
I plan it, obviously. So going into 2017, I know the places that I want to go to and the friends that I want to travel with. I usually
And this is
travel
by yourself?
with friends.
Oh, friends.
Yeah, usually I meet my friends there because I travel with friends I've met from different stages of my life. So this past year I went to Greece with a childhood friend, and she's in the UK, so we met in Greece. That's usually what happens when I travel. I haven't traveled with my family in a while, and I miss that, so hopefully I'll get to do that again soon. But I travel a lot with my sister, and I meet friends, as I said.
Well, both of you have been exposed to some work and those type of things. How about investments? Have you considered, millennials are known to be very savvy as well. What type of investments have you been into, if at all? How about Roberto?
The only investments I've made really that are big is property investments, I would say. Buying land or homes is definitely the investments that I've kind of been pushing myself towards, and my mom has told me I should push myself towards.
In the United States?
In the United States specifically.
Oh, by the way, Roberto is, you're half Italian.
Yeah.
Or you're full Italian?
Well, no, I'm half Italian, I'm half African.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm 50-50. But yeah, I was born in Italy.
Okay. So what kind of land you're talking about?
Well, right now, currently, my mom and I we just invested in a farm that we have on Long Island.
Oh, farm, that's very
So
interesting.
we have a lot of property out there, and that's kind of where we're building more property out that. We have 2 other stages of property land out there that's undeveloped that we have as well that we can use, obviously for
Oh,
investment
that's
purposes.
interesting. So from your world of modeling, all of a sudden you shift to the farm for
Yeah.
some peace of mind, I guess?
It is a little bit of peace of mind. It's also, it's nice to learn about what you're eating, and having the farm to table experience is really
Well,
something
clearly
that's-
you're very conscious about what you're eating. Is that how you keep fit?
Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely have to eat healthy all the time. You can't really eat bad, otherwise it doesn't really work, So if you're trying to keep in shape, you gotta eat well.
Well,
So
Christine,
it's-
how about you? How can you manage to be eating small when you're always in these big diplomatic parties? And what do you do for your fitness?
Oh, well, unlike Roberto, I actually just eat everything I want to eat. But I do enjoy working out. So I run often when I can. I also like fitness classes. I was actually a dancer in college, so I think I just need
Yeah,
heavy
you love
cardio.
dancing.
I do love dancing, so I just need a lot of heavy cardio to offset the fact that I don't really watch what I eat.
Yeah, that's very Filipino, you know. Back in the Philippines, we just eat anything. Yeah. So, what about the investments? What kind of investments have you done?
Well, I actually have some money in mutual funds.
Mutual funds is very
And-
interesting.
Yes, and whole life insurance.
Yeah.
I've only recently started investing, and that was on advice from my parents as well.
So this is another, you know, example of we parents, it's our job really to get our millennials into investing. And like I said, you know, your parents are the baby boomers. They're the ones who are holding the wealth of this country. But you guys, there's the transfer of wealth to you. And this is the reason we are very interested in knowing, you know, what interests you and all of this. So, Roberto, what would you advise to those people who wanted to be in your shoes? You know, a lot of people wanted to be modeling. Some people just want to take their picture and charge them for photos, those kind of things. What would you tell them?
For photographers, I'd say keep doing it. That's really all I can say. Is if you're into photography, it's really an art. So it's something that you have to keep. Really have to keep doing, you know. So if you don't go out with your camera and continuously shoot or find ways to inspire yourself or all that, then you're really not going to push yourself. So that's the first thing I would say. And then if you want to, you know, also make money off of it, then you can find, I guess, a department of photography that you enjoy. So whether it's fashion, whether it's, you know, music, whether it's...
Well, what specific photography do you enjoy?
I do music myself. So I photograph music artists primarily.
Music video? Oh, music.
Music artists, yeah. So what I do is I'll go on tour or I'll go to shows, I go to concerts, I take pictures of music artists in their regular life, you know, things like that. That's kind of
That's interesting.
where I'm at. So yeah, so I'm in that world right now, and I've done a little bit of fashion photography as well. I didn't enjoy it as much. It was fun, but I guess as a photographer myself, I didn't feel enough art coming out of it, so I couldn't really.
And underwater photography as
And
well?
underwater photography is another thing that I've tapped into as well a lot. That's something I kind of want to do more. I just have to get the equipment. Really, that's it.
Okay, so you must be a diver then.
I am a
to
diver,
Do that, okay.
yeah.
And in a little while, we're going to meet another diver. But before that, so you know, I heard about these advertisements saying wanted models. What do you say about those advertisements? Usually, they wind up charging people money for pictures for a so-called portfolio. Is that true?
Yeah,
Are those true agencies?
No, I wouldn't say that they're true agencies. I mean, it depends. Maybe they are. They're smaller agencies, or private businesses, things like that. I would say, but I wouldn't really consider them a real agency. Say if you want to go for a real agency, you should just look it up online and really just send in your own portfolio. Yeah, you can hire a photographer to take your picture. That makes sense. Of course, you have to pay someone to do it. I don't really think people can take their own portraits unless you are a photographer yourself. But aside from that, then definitely just send it a portrait and go into an office and just look for it.
How did you get signed up with Ford? Did you just meet them, or
yeah, I just met
submitted?
Well, I met them more. It was more of just a meet thing, and they kind of just asked me to come in.
So you see, this has to be a face-to-face thing. So beware if you see just those advertisement, wanted models, and then they charge you money for your photographs. Chances are that's not going to go anywhere, isn't it?
No.
Yeah. So take note of that. Now, I'm fascinated by what you said about mutual funds. Mutual funds, for the purpose of our audience, this is like it's like a pie of several different kinds of stocks in one. So for our millennials, if you don't have like a whole lot of money, like hundreds of thousands to invest one shot, mutual funds is the way to go. So what Christine is saying, with mutual funds, with a small amount of money, you can have stock ownership with the big players like Apple, IBM, Citigroup. Those are mutual funds. So you can, if you heard about the S&P 500, I think you're talking about that as a mutual funds. And interestingly, you mentioned about this insurance. Well, let me just tell you, because we are in the business of planning, insurance happens to be technically an investment because it does have a cash value to it. And in a little while, we will talk more about these investments. You're talking of whole life, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that's the one with the investment. And in fact, this whole life comes with a whole lot of protection, they're now bundled in one, like you have cash inside, you have long-term care inside if you need it. Otherwise, you can just take your money outright. So at this point, we're going to meet one or two other millennials, and we're going to transition. But for you adventurers out there, stay tuned because the next millennial will talk extensively about traveling solo. We'll be back.
For 75 years, your journeys have been our journeys. From the beauty of our nature to the warmth of our people, fly with the airline that lets you feel the heart of the Filipino.
The heart of the Filipino, shining through. Philippine Airlines, shining through.
Let's welcome two other millennials. I have here Portia Sichung. She's 31 years old. She's an accountant and a travel business owner. She actually is the anchor for our travel segment. And I have here Kirsten. She's 21 years old and a filmmaker, a very young filmmaker who will tell you stories about what they do in this industry. Now, Portia, give us a little bit of background of what you do. And the first time that you were here, it was quite a transition, was it? From the Philippines coming to New York?
Yes. I started my education at De La Salle University, and when we moved here, I waited while my credits from La Salle was evaluated and got transferred. So I was working as an administrative assistant and then as a legal assistant prior to resuming my studies accounting for at Hunter College.
And what type of job did you do for the first time?
As I mentioned, I started as office worker, administrative assistant.
And then you transitioned to what? What are you doing after that?
As a legal assistant. So I was a paralegal or legal assistant for 5 years. I saved up money to be able to pay for my college.
Okay.
And I made a decision to go into a city university instead of a private college because I wanted to be able to graduate with no student debt, and I want to be able to just work and pay for it.
Oh, that's a very good point. Now, since you started working quite early, have you thought of saving, aside from their saving, about investing? Have you been into some investments?
Early on, like I said, I've been working for about 10 years now. When I first started working, net of expenses, yes, I would save up my money. So I opened CDs and my usual savings account in addition to a checking account. And then whatever savings I did, I paid for school, I paid for whatever else expenses that I accumulated. After graduating, as I continued working, then I was able to have enough money to start IRAs and put money in 401ks when I received.
Now that's very American. You know, an IRA is like it's an individual retirement account, and a 401k. Actually, that's a section of the IRS code that allows employees in the United States to take a deduction from their income. So this 401k becomes their future nest eggs. You know, it's when you're above 59 years old. That's when you start using that money for some future time when you don't, when you're not working anymore. So that's very good. So in 10 years time, that's how these millennials, can transition from a simple CD. And it's very good. Did you study doing this 401k and Roth on your own?
My first retirement account was a Roth IRA, a couple of years back, because at that time my employer was not offering a 401k. I learned about retirement savings when I was doing my taxes, just reading up on it.
So wait, you're doing your own taxes and you were not yet an accountant at that time?
No, I was still a student and I was just curious with, how income taxes are done. And because I was working, I had to pay. So then before the deadline, I studied up on it. Like I read the instruction manuals and I filed it.
Oh, that's fascinating. Oh, by the way, she used another term here that sounds so foreign to us. The Roth IRA is actually an after-tax dollars. So, when people ask me, should they do the Roth or the traditional? The Roth is good for millennials like you because you don't need the tax deduction really. When the income is not that big and, you can't really use that deduction. So, Roth is something that you put your money away, and by the time that you take your money, it's all tax-free. That's great. Now, let's talk about what Kirsten is doing. How did you get started with this filmmaking? When was that?
Well, basically, my background started in high school. I was 14, 15 years old, and I got into a program called the Ghetto Film School here in New York. It's a nonprofit program for people between the ages of 14 and 21. Anyone who wants to learn filmmaking doesn't necessarily have the money for a private education in art. So I got into the program, and it was 15 months of intensive work, pre-production, production, and post-production with an insight on how the commercial industry works. So I did that during my high school year. And within a year of joining the program, we went to Shanghai. I was a director along board with 8 of my friends, which were also my crew members, and we shot a 15-minute short film. At the end of this film was premiered at HBO here in Bryant Park.
How old were you again?
I was 15 when we shot the movie in Shanghai, and then 16 years old when we premiered. So it took about a year's worth of editing, which is normal for a narrative film. It usually does take a lot of time, especially in post-production. So after that period, I was still in high school, and I was already starting to get interviews with the New York Times, the New Yorker, and even Time Warner magazine.
We're gonna show you those copies later on. Mm-hmm.
So basically, I was able to build my resume, which was really important being a high school student trying to get into a good college. I wanted to go to a private university because I just wanted the experience of, what you see on TV, private school, living on campus, meeting people from all over the world. And I knew I didn't necessarily have the pocket money to do that, but there's always a way. When there's a will, there's a way. So I applied for scholarships.
It seems that between the two of you, because you started high school here in the United States, and that helped a lot. And when you arrived, you were already in college. So I think that's where the difference lies, isn't it? So does it mean that going to school in a New York City, did it help you a lot?
Absolutely. I would not have known about the Ghetto Film School if it weren't for my teachers in high school. And being here in New York already gives me the advantage because I can apply for local scholarships to the school that I wanted to go to. And on top of that, my experience in art and my videos that I was doing really built my portfolio, which led into a full scholarship to Northeastern University, which is in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm currently a senior there, so I'm graduating within the next year.
So what are you currently doing?
Well, right now, like I said, I'm a senior at school, so I'm finishing that first. I'm going back.
Jobs?
I'm going back in a few weeks, but every summer I work at Sundance TV, which is here in New York, specifically in the post-production area, which is something that actually is a passion of mine. Directing is the main passion, but post-production is also something that I do care about. So I do that as my summer job. But the main thing that I take away from it is networking. This is the prime place to really meet the people that you want to work for in the future and let them know who you are and what you look like. So
who are this type of people you network
Well,
with?
basically, my mentor at Sundance, her name is Laura, and she's the executive producer alongside a few other people. And she's really mentored me through my career, really told me that as a woman, it's very important that you have this independence, but you also take control. You have to write your own creative work, and you have to do it yourself. We live, especially in an industry that's completely run by men. As a woman, you have to go out of your way to really show people that you can do everything. And that's how you get the attention. That's also how you get the funding to do the projects that you want to do.
So is this the same message you could send those
Absolutely.
kids out there? So many New Yorkers, young New Yorkers, wanted to be in the filmmaking industry.
Well, you have to start somewhere. Anywhere is a good start, and internships are always really the best way to go. Even though they might not be paid in the beginning, the most important
Take note.
The most important thing about internships is meeting people and building your resume, because once you have a background, it's a lot easier to go to the offices that you do want to work for and tell them, hey, I've been doing this for a few years. I'm 21 years old, but I have 6 years of experience.
So is the market for women filmmakers a good one?
I think in today's day and age, it's a very prime moment for women of all industries to really do what they want to do, because that's what the audience wants to see. Is we have a lot of films and a lot of artwork that's sort of curated by men, and therefore the lenses are told through the story of men. There are not a lot of films that
Really?
young Asian Filipino women can really identify with, because they're written through the viewpoint of a middle-aged white man. So people are ready for the change. People want to see different stories, and people really want to see young women becoming leaders.
Oh, that really sounds good. And all good news, right? Now, let's talk about travel. Both of them are extensive travel, but Portia, let me tell you, I remember when you celebrated your 30, it was 30, 30, 30. What that means was 30 years old, she went to 30 countries, and she had 30 dives. So tell us about travel. What's your style in traveling? And you do family, you do solo. Which one is your preference?
I have been fortunate enough to be able to travel with family, with friends, and by myself. Out of all of those, early on, after my first solo travel, I realized that I do like to travel by myself. It's my me time. It's being able to control everything, and with the 30 countries by 30, I feel like it's a happenstance type of situation. That was not the intention. Like, I never realized, it was never a goal of mine. Like, by the time I'm 30, I need to hit this number of countries. It was never that.
So it just happened, because I saw that in your Facebook.
It just did happen. I was writing down how many countries I went to, and it was like a few months before my 30th, and I was like, oh wait, I really am close. So I'm like,
So traveling takes a lot of money. I mean, how do you do it? On a budget? How do you do this?
It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. However,
Listen up. Budget travel, here we go.
As someone who does travel solo for more than half of my 35 countries currently visited, there are expenses that I can't just get out of. Like, if I want to do a tour, if I splurge on a tour, a private tour, then that's on me. And when it comes to how I pay for it, I have been working for 10 years. I've saved up my money, and then I also use a combination of points in their loyalty.
The points meaning the
programs.
rewards program of what? Credit cards and airlines?
Variety, yes, to both. So I do have.
I love those things.
I do have frequent flyer accounts.
Which airlines?
United and Delta.
Okay, I love Delta too.
So they do have extensive networks of airlines and alliances, but I also have credit card points and hotel points. Like, loyalty pays. In some way, it does pay. I do also want to caution, just like throwing it out there. There are devaluation of points and redemption happening.
Okay. There's an expiration. True. Many of these points, rewards, they expire.
Yes.
Except for very few airlines. I think Delta's one of them.
Yes.
Even British Airlines, they expire. But I'm curious about this traveling solo. what caveats or you must have to look out for, because if you're just alone out there in a strange land with strange language?
Yes, as a solo female traveler, we always have to be more aware. I mean, that is an unfortunate reality. There are places that I can't go into with 100% confidence, and like if it's like a male counterpart.
Like what kind of place you shouldn't go into?
I mean, I think it's just common sense, though. Like you can be coming home,
like in a bar,
like stumbling drunk. It's these things. Like you always have to keep your wits around you. But I love traveling by myself. Like I said.
Wait, was there any incident in the past? Well, incident like that's not so nice because you were out there by yourself?
I really wouldn't say something bad happened because I was by myself. Something bad can always happen, even if you're traveling with family or friends. But there were two instances where I had to, one was I had to check myself into an ER. There was a thing with food and water.
That's brave of you.
So that was pretty scary moment. Then there was like a pickpocketing incident that happened.
Where was that?
I'd really rather not say the country.
Okay, all right.
But
well, that could be anywhere too.
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, of course. But the silver lining that I always tell people whenever I tell them the whole story is it was not a violent crime.
Okay.
They didn't pull a gun on me or a knife didn't push me or whatever.
Right.
I didn't feel it. They were very good. So.
Mm-hmm. I heard those also back in the Philippines, those good robbers. So, Kirsten, if you two have traveled, what are your favorite places and destinations, and what's your future plan about this travel?
Well, lately all of my travel has been pretty much focused on work. My most recent travel would have to be going to Vancouver in Canada. I could probably say it's one of my favorite places as of now because it's a lot of fresh air compared to New York, and a lot more nature. And I definitely find myself, going towards more of a nature aspect, especially because we basically grew up in New York. And it's kind of hard to get away from a city unless you know where you're going to. But
what about London, Paris, those European cities?
So I visited those places before when I was younger, but it's usually with family. Something I'm really interested in now are road trips with my friends, especially because I live in the northeast area in Massachusetts. There are a lot of places on the east that you can visit. And something that my grandmother always told me was, you have to explore the land that you live in. A lot of people want to travel to Europe, and a lot of people want to travel to all these places, but you should see what's around you first. My grandmother was somebody that's visited every single state here in the U.S., and now she's 85 years old, so I take her advice very close to heart, and that's also something I want to do in the future.
And that reminds me of, for us Filipinos, you've got to go explore Philippines first before all these other countries, but we are just naturally attracted to Europe, right? So let's take it from Kirsten. Let's explore our own land first. Well, did you remember any mentor for your closing, remarks?
Yeah,
something that you could send to our viewers?
Well, so as I mentioned before, my mentor right now is Laura. She's the executive producer at Sundance, and the advice that I'm always told is to just do it. If you care about something, if you're passionate about something, you'll never know the outcome unless you try it. So it's very important that when you're passionate about something, you have the energy to do it. You have to, because you're never going to get any younger, and you also don't know the possibilities of something unless you try.
And that is very true. And Portia, any final advice to our viewers?
It's the same. I've always been asked, because I know you have this thing with solo traveling, just do it. Like, you are not getting any younger, and I refuse to put my life on hold in hopes of having someone to come with me through all these countries and to all these trips. Like, I want to see a place, I want to go to a place, I'll just go. If I have friends or family who are available, great. But there's no
That's true
shame
too.
in being by yourself. You learn a lot. You learn more about yourself. You get more in tune with yourself. You get confidence, and you become self-reliant. You also learn to trust people around you, strangers. People are good. People will go out of their way to help you, even though there's a language barrier. But of course, as a traveler, I think it's just respectful to be able to learn basic greetings, or basic phrases
have some foreign language.
in whichever countries I end up at. That's my takeaway of it. Like, don't be scared, but always be prepared. In terms of budgeting for it, travel within your means. Another great
Definitely.
thing as a solo traveler is I can control my budget. I can splurge on the things I really want to. I can pull back on some things. I, put the trip within the budget and not the other way around. And just go have fun.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. These are the last two of our millennials. These are the future of this country. They are reshaping our future because us baby boomers, they will soon be taking our place. And this is how they think. So until our next episode, thank you for joining us. And ladies, may I offer a toast for all you travelers out there? Adventurers, cheers.
Cheers.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the office of Pag-ibig Fund. My name is Michael Azucena. I am the representative of Pag-ibig Fund in the Philippines, from the Philippines. I'd like to invite you, former members, non-members, former Filipino, even U.S. citizen, but former Filipino, to come and visit the office. If you worked in the Philippines before, chances are you still have your savings in the Philippines. I can check that with our computer. So I'm inviting everyone, all Filipinos out there, to come and visit the office. Our office is located at the Philippine Consulate, 556 Fifth Avenue. You can call me or email me. My number is 646-869-6690, or you can send me an email, popnewyork@pagibigfund.gov.ph. Again, I'm inviting everyone, please come and visit me and be a member of Pag-ibig Fund. Thank you and mabuhay kayong lahat. Salamat po.